I never thought a $5 ice scraper would spark the kind of neighborhood drama that makes you question the sanity of suburban America. But that's exactly what happened, and it turned my life upside down for a winter I won't forget. It kicked off on a Tuesday, just after 6 a.m., the kind of Minnesota morning where your breath fogs the windshield before you even get your coffee poured. I'm George Thompson, the guy with the plow truck and the little snow removal business you'd barely notice if everything ran smooth. But in Riverside Heights, smooth was a foreign language. The houses here all look like they rolled off the same beige assembly line. And if you think that means it's a peaceful place, think again. I bought in 3 years back, trying to keep my commute short. Figured, if I'm the one plowing the streets, might as well live here. Huh. Famous last words. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, ran things like a boot camp, and at the head of it was Margaret Henderson. Picture a woman in her early 50s, red parka, hair cut sharp enough to slice a bagel, and the kind of smile that says, "I double-checked your mailbox height." Margaret was the president and, in her mind, queen of Riverside. Anyway, I'd already been out since before dawn, working to clear a good 8 inches off the neighborhood. Around 6:15, I swung back by my place to grab a cup of coffee and double-check my gear before a second pass. My trusty brass blade ice scraper, 15 years old, handle worn to fit my hand, was right there on my dashboard. 10 minutes, that's all I was inside. When I came back out, it was gone. Truck was locked except I'd left the passenger window cracked, maybe 2 inches. Just enough for someone with a quick hand. I scanned the quiet street. Still mostly dark, folks sleeping in. But 3 houses down, there's Margaret, standing on her porch in her red parka, steaming mug in hand, just watching. I walked over, careful on the slick sidewalk. "Margaret, you see anyone near my truck?" She sipped her coffee, eyes never leaving mine. "Morning, George. Lovely weather. Someone stole your scraper? You sure you didn't just misplace it? This is a safe neighborhood, you know." The way she said it, like I was a careless teenager, not the guy keeping her street drivable. It twisted something in my gut. "I keep my tools locked up, Margaret. It was right there. Did you see anybody?" She just smiled a little too wide. "Maybe you ought to check your windows. People need to be more responsible." I knew then. She had it. But why? What's an HOA president want with an old ice scraper? She changed the subject, complaints about my snow piles, rumors of reviewing my contract at the next meeting, the usual threats. I try to keep my cool. "The HOA signs my checks, Margaret, not you." But she just set her mug down, cold and certain. "I'm the HOA president. That means I have influence." All day, the thought festered. By noon, I see her out front, scraping snow off her Mercedes with, yep, my scraper. Didn't even bother to hide it. "Margaret, that's mine," I called from the street. She didn't blink. "This old thing? I found it near my driveway. Maybe you ought to be more careful." That laugh of hers, sharp, echoing down the block, rattled me. But I swallowed it and went back to work. That night, an official email came. The HOA would be reviewing all vendor contracts Thursday. Concerns about snow removal and professionalism. It said, signed, of course, by Margaret. I called Derek, one of the 5 board members, a good guy, usually level-headed. "What's going on, Derek?" "Margaret's pushing this." He confirmed it. "Bring photos, logs, anything you got, George. If your work checks out, you'll be fine. Margaret can't fire you solo." So I spent Wednesday snapping photos of every street, neat and clean. Pulled up my logs, even got a few written notes from neighbors who liked my work. By Thursday night, the community center was packed, triple the usual turnout. Margaret stood at the front, hair perfect, voice syrupy sweet as she clicked through her evidence, blurry photos of snow piles and blocked driveways. I stood up. "Can I see those up close?" I asked. Margaret bristled, but Derek backed me up. The first was just someone's driveway, not the street. The second, sure enough, a house where the owner had ignored the no-street parking rule during a storm. The third showed snow strips from 2 weeks ago, the one day I'd had a backup driver while I fought the flu. I'd come back and fixed it myself the next morning. "These photos don't show what you say," I told the room, laying out the facts. "And I've got letters here from 15 neighbors, folks who are happy with my work." Right then, Susan Kowalski from Maple Court piped up. Margaret told you I complained, but I never did. I said I was worried about my neighbor's driveway, not the streets. George has always done right by us. One by one, folks spoke up, turning the tide. By the time the fifth neighbor finished, Margaret looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. But she snapped, "Well, George's attitude is unprofessional. He's been harassing me about a missing tool all week." I couldn't hold it anymore. "You mean the ice scraper you stole?" Silence. The kind that makes your skin prickle. "Excuse me," she hissed. "You took it right out of my truck. You're using it now." "That's a lie. I found it on the street." I shook my head. "It's got my initials, GT, burned into the handle. Want to check?" A stir rippled through the room. Then Troy Martinez, a younger guy from across the street, stood up waving his phone. "I got a Ring camera facing the street. Watch the footage after hearing you two yelling. Margaret, I saw you walk up to George's truck, reach in, grab something, and walk back home. It's all on video." Pandemonium. Some people laughed. Others looked horrified. Margaret tried to protest, but Derek stepped in, flipping through the bylaws. According to Article 7, Section 3, we can remove a board member by 2/3 board vote or a resident majority at meeting. Patricia, another board member, moved for a no-confidence vote. 4 out of 5 board members voted her out. When Derek called for a show of hands from the crowd, 28 out of 32 residents voted to remove her as president. Margaret was stunned. Told she'd have to return all HOA property by Monday, she stormed out, pausing only to glare at me. "This isn't over," she spat. The next morning, she made sure it wasn't. I rolled out at 4 a.m., fresh snow on the ground. When I got to her street, Margaret blocked my truck, arms crossed in the middle of the road. "You're not plowing this street," she declared. "That's not how it works," I said. "The HOA pays me. You can't stop me from doing my job." She stood her ground until I called the police. When Officer Kowalski showed up, she told Margaret, "The street's public right-of-way. Move now, or I'll have to cite you." Margaret wouldn't budge until the officer started writing a ticket. She grabbed the citation, stalked off, and slammed her door. I thought maybe, just maybe, that was the end. But Sunday, I woke up to 4 slashed tires. I knew in my bones who'd done it. Officer Reynolds came out, took one look at the security footage Troy had, and, sure enough, it was Margaret, clear as day under the streetlight. When Reynolds asked if I wanted to press charges, I thought about the cost of those tires, the wasted time, the message it would send if I let this go. "Yeah, I want to press charges." Margaret was arrested that afternoon. By then, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. I got calls from neighbors, apologies from the board, even an offer to cover my damages out of the HOA's budget. The board started talking about whether they could have Margaret removed from the community for threatening the peace and safety. The drama was endless. But eventually, Margaret came knocking at my door, no longer the queen bee, just a tired woman, desperate, asking for a second chance. "I'll pay for the tires, I'll apologize, I'll do whatever it takes. I just can't have a criminal record. Please, George." I wanted to be angry, but mostly I felt worn out. "You wouldn't be in this mess if you just owned up and said you were sorry," I told her. She didn't argue, just nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "I'll pay for everything, take the anger management, whatever it takes. I am sorry, George. I really am." So I told her the terms: full restitution, letters of apology, proof of counseling. If she agreed, I'd drop the charges. She did. The prosecutor worked out a plea deal. Margaret paid for my tires and court costs, put in hours of community service, and, if she kept her nose clean, would have her record expunged. The neighborhood slowly went back to normal. A few months later, Margaret came to say goodbye before she moved. "I lied about throwing away your scraper," she said, holding it out. "I kept it spite, I guess, but it's yours." I took it, feeling the old brass grip in my palm, and nodded. She'd learned something. I could see in her eyes. Not just regret for getting caught, but for what she'd become. That was the real turn. That summer, my business grew. 3 more HOA contracts, new trucks, employees. Margaret's downfall did the opposite of what she wanted. It made me stronger, more respected, even liked by neighbors who barely knew my name before. I learned to document everything, to stand my ground, but also to offer mercy when it's earned. When winter rolled back around, I loaded my truck, 2 scrapers on the dash now, one old, one new. Derek was still HOA president, and my contract came with a 20% raise. I kept plowing those same streets, every house, every drive, including Margaret's old place, because that's what you do. The work day after day, no drama, just a steady scrape of blade on pavement, and maybe away from a neighbor as the sun rises. You know, sometimes people do change. Sometimes when the dust settles, or the snow, in my case, what matters isn't the fight or the grudge, but whether you can look back and say, I stood up for myself, I did my job, and I gave someone a shot at redemption. I don't know where Margaret ended up, but I hope she found her own peace. As for me, I've got both ice scrapers on my dash, a growing business, and a community that finally sees me as more than just the guy with the truck. Funny thing, none of this would have happened if Margaret could have just admitted a simple mistake. In the end, that's the lesson I keep circling back to. How far pride and power can push a person, how hard it is to just say I was wrong, and how much better life could be if more people figured that out before they wreck everything around them. So, here's my question. Where's the line between standing your ground and letting something go? When does justice turn into revenge? Have you ever seen a petty squabble blow up into something no one could have predicted? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me about your own HOA battles or times you saw karma come calling. Do you think I was right to give Margaret a second chance? Or would you have pushed for her to get the maximum penalty? Let's hear your take, because if there's one thing I've learned out here, it's that everyone's got a story, and sometimes it all starts with something as small as an ice scraper.